Well, my husband and I work together, and I actually went into labor 5 weeks early. And so I finished up a meeting, and as soon as my client walked out, my water broke. I motioned to my husband, I'm like, okay, I think I just went into labor. And he's like, no, it's too early for that. And we had to pack our bag. We weren't ready yet. So everyone told us 36 weeks is when you need to be ready. We had the baby shower coming up in a few days. His crib was in a box in our hallway. So I wasn't in pain for quite a long time. So my water broke at 5. We went into the hospital at 7. I wouldn't say I was in pain until, like 9 o'clock. And that's when they were starting to give me a bit more Pitocin. And even then I was feeling contractions, but they weren't very strong, or not what I expected labor to feel like. And then they kicked up the Pitocin quite a bit. And I was a little bit nervous about that because I knew that, wow, when there's quite a bit of Pitocin, that's when it's going to hurt. And I knew I was going to have an epidural going into it, but for some reason I just waited a little bit longer and I thought I could stick it out. And at a certain point I was like, I need that epidural now. So I had that epidural, and then everything went kind of smoothly after that.
The baby was born and screaming and in the doctor's hands, and she's like, would you like to cut the cord? And I hadn't decided yet because we still had 5 weeks. I was like, oh man, it's a lot of stress. I was like, will it hurt him? Will it hurt the baby? And I felt like an idiot for asking that because it sounded so dumb. But she's like, no. And I'm like, okay. And then I clipped it once and it didn't work and it splattered. It was, did not study biology or medicine. And then I had to do it a second time, poor child. And then everything was fine.
Because he was born early, the pediatrician and the doctors whisked him off very quickly. So we only got to spend maybe a minute or two together before he was taken away. And then Ajit went with the doctors with the baby. So I was kind of on my own. And then for a couple of hours, I was just on my own. I think I was sleeping. And then he came down and they had to wait to make sure that I could walk around and that I could go to the bathroom before they would even let me to go upstairs to the special care unit to see him. So
they said, well, if there is an infection, it can take over really quickly. So they stress you out, and then you say, oh, okay, then fill him with drugs. And then later you kind of feel guilty about the volume of drugs and how many little things they have on him and everything else. But it worked out well. He was only there for 2 days. He didn't have to stay longer than normal baby would, so that was nice. And then we brought him home.
He came home with us.